so I can go off and come back out.
Hello and welcome to our online virtual exhibition. I'm so excited to see all of you. Of course, I wish that we were in Carnegie Music Hall instead of here in Zoom land, but I will take your lovely faces any way that I can get them. So I wanted to just take a minute while I'm welcoming you and say, while we are so happy to be celebrating music and all of these wonderful young musicians together here today, I can't ignore the fact that the sheer aspect of us meeting on Zoom instead of in Carnegie Music Hall is because our country and our world are just full of so many unprecedented circumstances, and you only need to spend 5 minutes on the news to get a sense of what's going on. So I was hoping before we got started that you would join with me in a moment of silence so that we can raise together our good energy, our positive thoughts, our prayers, whatever way that you choose to do it, to honor those who have died from COVID-19 and those who are suffering today, and just in support of peace and justice in this world. So we'll just take a few moments to send that energy out in the world. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you. Many of you know that one of our recurring themes this year, in the past 10 weeks, has been all about the silver linings. And there are so many of them that we have been honored to be a part of, and you're gonna see featured many of those today. But I think that one of the things that we definitely can recognize as a silver lining is the music and that we've made together and all of the wonderful things that we have done, not only this year, but of course in the past 10 weeks, and we can take that to put some good out into the world at the time that we need it the most. So I hope that this brief exhibition will inspire you and be a wonderful way to honor all of the amazing work that you have done with us today. So I want to turn over to our president of our board of directors, Paul Dirksen. He'll be joining us in just a second to say hello from the board. But I also, and I know you're going to hear from a lot of them today, but I would love for you all to know how deeply grateful I am for the amazing team that we have to work with. Every single person who has engaged with your children and you, the musicians, in the past 10 weeks and in the past year, every single one of us and every single one of the team members has leaned in, and countless hours. I can't even begin to tell you how grateful I am for all the amazing people that we have on the TRYPO team, and we couldn't have done any of this without them. So thank you to all of you. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Paul Dirksen. He's the Associate Professor of Music Education at Duquesne University, and he's our president of our board of directors. We have a wonderful board who helps us do all of the magical things that we do. And Paul, if you are with us, then why don't you go ahead and unmute and say hello.
Good. I believe I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's great. Well, thank you, Lindsay. On behalf of TRYPO's Board of Directors, I want to welcome you to this afternoon's virtual concert and to congratulate all the ensemble musicians, the artistic staff, and the administrative members. We wish you the best performances. And on that note, please welcome your artistic director, Maestro Brian Worsdale. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you everybody for being here today. 183 so far in our Zoom room, and that just makes me happy. When I look at that list, it just makes me very happy. I need to take this moment to thank not only the wonderful administrative team that makes all this happen, but also our board and our parents. Your support of these young people and the work they do is something truly special. And I will tell you that this does not happen by accident. This is a lot of hard work and a lot of effort by a lot of people who truly believe in the power of music education and the power of the TRYPO family, #TRYPOFam, to get us through these kind of things. And if you look, it's there. My head blocks some of it. Sorry about that, folks, but you know, but we all have somewhere. We are all trying to put out that love. this has been a tumultuous 10 weeks. In the span of less than 3 days, since the decision was made to take care of the safety of our citizens, the TRYPO staff, artistic as well as administrative, sat down, and instead of just going into a corner and waiting to see what would happen, all jumped to work immediately to continue to provide quality, positive experiences for these young people. And with that came wonderful content from all of our artistic leaders. I want to thank my colleagues, my friends, who lead our other ensembles, from Lori, Cunningham, who handles YC Squared, to Paul Evans, our percussion ensemble director, to Len Lavelle, our wind symphony conductor, Andrew Wickesberg, our symphonette conductor, as well as all the coaches that have come in and worked. I have to say this, as much as we have so many wonderful coaches, there's been one coach who has been at every single Saturday session and then some, and that's Jim Rogers. And we are just so grateful to have somebody who cares so much about our organization. And you can see he's wearing his Elements t-shirt. So he's absolutely representing our TRYPO family, and that just makes me very happy. We had so many wonderful guest speakers, 35 guest speakers in 10 weeks. All of our guest speakers volunteered their time. And when I tell you some of the people that, and just a handful of the people who worked with us, they were tremendous and so giving, and basically volunteered their time. We're all in this together. We're all working really hard to provide these experiences for each other. And I can tell you that the music education and the music community is no different. All of them willing to come into a room and talk, and we all have been doing it for each other. We started with our first one with Larry Livingston, the head of conducting at USC, and probably one of the most important music education pedagogues in the nation. And he led our first, I want to call it our keynote of our first Saturday session. And that was really special. And we have gone from someone like Larry to Jeff Grogan from Oklahoma City University, Doug DeRosti from Ball State University. And, we had this up and coming violinist, so much ability. And I could tell he was going to go places. We had Itzhak Perlman with our kids. I mean, how tremendous was that to have someone like Itzhak Perlman talk to our kids? And then, of course, we rounded up our entire wonderful Saturday session with Maren Alsop, the music director of the Baltimore Symphony, who talked passionately about her desire to give students in the Baltimore urban area a chance at making music, and a chance at being able to have music as a lifeline. And hearing that story and hearing about that is truly inspiring for these young people. While we were not able to make music together and play our instruments together in a room, we were able to make some wonderful connections and do things that we would never have been able to do in our regular season. We would never have been able to get Itzhak Perlman or Maren Alsop to come out to Pittsburgh under those circumstances. But with the power of technology and of Zoom, we have been able to make those connections and create special, lasting experiences for these kids for years to come. We've asked people, and I've done this myself, of taking a daily diary and just writing one sentence. This is the moment that we will all think about when we go back 10 years from now, 20 years from now. All of you, whether you are in middle school, high school, or whether you are a cranky adult like ourselves, you're all going to remember what happened in this 2020. And I am reminded of the wonderful speech given by the Queen that she gave to her subjects, that we all were lucky enough to get to watch, where she basically said very poignantly that our actions during this time will define us as people. What we do and how we do what we do will define us as a people. And I have to tell you that TRYPO has defined itself beautifully, because we have all maintained and kept our elements relevant. And because of that, I am so blessed and lucky to be part of the magic that is TRYPO. A year and a half in, and I said this in an email to the students, while Brooklyn may be my hometown, Pittsburgh is my home. And that is something that I cherish. And I stayed here. I stayed here, kept this my home during this entire situation. And because of that, I am blessed and I am luckier because of it. And so are all the people that have worked with you week in and week out, as well as all these wonderful, amazing young people who I run to rehearsals, even rehearsals behind a computer. So that's just special. At this point, I've worn out my thank you welcome, and I am so lucky that we have with us somebody who you don't have to hear my voice the entire time. He has become a wonderful friend to me, and he's been a longtime friend to our TRYPO family. He is the principal classical host at WQED. He is the voice of the Pittsburgh Symphony. Please welcome Jim Cunningham.
It is a joy and a welcome to one and all, a joy and an honor to be with you. Thank you so much for having me with you today. And I'm trusting you to tune in WQED FM at 89.3. Maestro Warsdale and I are working on a program which we will air soon, within the next month, on Friday night at 7 o'clock, featuring recordings of the Three Rivers Young People's Orchestra. So be sure to be listening for that. This is an online exhibition that features presentations by each of the TRYPO performing groups, as well as a presentation from our graduating seniors, and a very special visit from Maestro Manfred Honeck, live from Austria. The order of ensembles will start with the Youth Chamber Connection. We'll hear from the Percussion Ensemble, the Symphonette, the Wind Symphony. We'll have a senior project, a visit from Manfred. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Kathy Malucci, the Three Rivers Young People's Orchestra alum and TRYPO president. She's a Symphonette coach, a YC Squared coach, and principal cello of the Pittsburgh Opera. We hope we can look down into the pit and see her sitting there soon. And it was not too long ago that she came to WQED and was a guest live on the air in the morning to introduce her Boccherini cello concerto that she played with Edward Leonard and the Chamber Orchestra of Pittsburgh. Kathy Malucci, welcome.
Good morning or good afternoon. What am I saying? And I just want to say a special hello to all my cello peeps. I miss you guys. Hi, cellos. Yay. Okay. So as Jim said, I'm Kathy Malucci, and I'm a mother, and I'm a cellist, and I'm a teacher. And my love and commitment to TRYPO goes way back. I was in the 3rd season of the orchestra in 1976. So that's way back. So YC2, for those of you who don't know, is comprised of students ages 7 to 18 from the tri-state area. And every fall, Mrs. Cunningham and the YC2 staff work on a giant puzzle. We take all the enrolled students in YC2 and we put them into chamber groups. And I'm fortunate because I get to work with the students and share my passion for chamber music. And we get to work on honing skills like collaboration and creativity and communication. So when we moved to remote meetings, I marveled as I listened to our students use these essential skills. We worked together and we found a way to make music, which is the most important thing. Thank you so much for sharing your students with us. It's been a really amazing year.
Hi, we're the Tintin Quartet.
Hi, we're the
Pod
Trio.
Hi, we're the Lignius Quartet.
Hi, we're the Spring Quartet.
Marble
Quartet.
Hi, we're the Yin Twins Trio.
Hi, we're the Pistachio Quartet.
We're the Antarctic Quartet.
Hi, we're the Yin Twins Quartet.
Hi, we're the Snazzy Sliders.
Hi, we're the Skyline Quintet.
Hi, we're the Quintessential Quintet.
Hi, we're the Intentional Chaos Quintet.
During quarantine, I've been writing poems, writing for my school newspaper, writing stories, and doing lots of assignments for my remote learning in school and practicing.
I've been doing a lot of puzzles and schoolwork.
During the quarantine, I've been picking up baking. I've been making yeast rolls, fudge, and peanut butter cookies, along with taking my dog out for hikes. His name is Quesadilla.
I just finished reading To Kill a Mockingbird a little while ago, and I really loved it. So.
I have been holding quarantine recitals for my dog.
I have photobombed more FaceTime calls.
One thing that I've been enjoying during quarantine is making little contraptions like this bow that I made. You pull it back and then you let go.
So YC Squared is a place to have fun and with a group and learn new songs, play new songs, and learn different techniques, that kind of stuff.
I like playing in different places like library and like the Starbucks.
I like playing new songs I've never heard.
You can get your own individual parts and play more solos.
When you're all together, it sounds really pretty.
It's your responsibility if you mess up, and there's no one else to like have your back. So it's a real learning experience.
It's a lot more collaborative.
It's more personal.
There's a lot of energy in the quartet, like when we plan stuff and during rehearsal, so it's fun.
That we constantly are able to make each other laugh during rehearsals while we're talking.
Well, we started off the year working on the Mozart, the Salzburg symphonies, and now we're working on the Mendelssohn Quartet No. 1.
This year we've been working on Mozart Piano Quartet in E-flat major.
Today we will be playing Beethoven's Quintet in E-flat major.
One, two, three.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much to Kathy Malucci and all of our marvelous chamber musicians there. So great to see you all in all those terrific settings. I have never met a musician who didn't say they loved playing in a chamber music setting. Orchestras try to sound like chamber orchestras, and to see you all around town was just so great. Congratulations to everybody. We're going to hear from Paul Evans in just a moment. Paul is an artist lecturer at percussion, Carnegie Mellon University. He's a member of the River City Brass, the Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera, the Pittsburgh Broadway series, and he's played regularly with just about every organization in Pittsburgh. He's also the TRYPO percussion coach for more than 20 years, and you see him on television all the time. If you watch WQED, Paul is the percussionist of choice for the My Music specials, the doo-wop specials. So he's seen all over the country. Paul Evans, welcome. Great to see you.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks. Good to see you too. It's been a while.
So as you know, as everybody knows, when the last group was talking, what they did during break, what they did, one of the things I do a lot is walk. And actually my wife and myself were walking just the other day. We were up at Duquesne University, actually, where we both went to music school. And we walking around to music school, and it was eerie. There was no students, you know, and the Saturdays that we miss being there, well, I miss being there, especially with my percussion group, who hopefully is all on the other screens watching us now. And so one thing that we did with the percussion group this year is we had a lot of guests because we didn't have instruments to go everywhere. So we had guests. We had Don Liuzzi from the Philly Orchestra. We had a former student of mine who's a marimba soloist, Ujjal Bhattacharya. We had Dave DePeters, who's a percussion friend of mine from grad school, who runs the National Repertoire Orchestra. So we took a bunch of percussion everywhere. So with having no instruments to play on, we did a lot of talking and a lot of learning about the music business. And so I believe we have one of our students here who's going to come on. Blake is going to come on and introduce a clip from our December concert. Now, we had two concerts in December, November and December last semester. One was with the Duquesne University Percussion Ensemble, and the other was with the TRYPO and the Wind Symphony concerts. So I wasn't able to be there for that. I was working. As Jim said, I'm around a lot in other groups, so you got to do what you got to do. So you'll actually see the grad assistant starting everything here. So Blake, hopefully you're on standby here somewhere.
Hi, Mr. Evans.
Hey, there you are.
Do I introduce it now or do I wait right now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Talk a little bit. You can introduce it.
The piece is called Drums of Moria by Nathan Daughtry. It was a piece we played for our winter concert, like you said, and the many different and clashing sounds were inspired by the ogres from Lord of the Rings. That's
Play.
it, I think.
Good job.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Blake. Sounded absolutely great. Bravo, good job. So wonderful to hear the percussion, the engine room that drives everything forward and gives the magic to what's happening on stage. Just amazing work there. Congratulations. We have Andrew Wickersberg coming up next. He's the violist of the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra, who has announced that he is stepping down from conducting the Symphonette. While the May concert was to have been his last, he has agreed to continue on into the fall until we can hold our search for the next conductor of Symphonette. Say it isn't so, Andrew. We've loved your work. It's been so wonderful to hear you, and I'm counting on you for an interview on that next Pittsburgh Symphony tour. Great to see you today.
Oh, it's great to be here, Jim. I'm so excited for this moment. We've been working and talking and having a good time every Saturday morning, just as if nothing has happened in some respects. I wanted to take you through sort of what we've been doing with Symphonette pre and then post event, let's call it. Before the event, we showed up at Duquesne University as normal, had our in-person rehearsals every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. I had my my coffee, very important. And we would rehearse, and I would give the students pointers on all of the musical things that they needed to fix. Now, once Duquesne University said, we need to be very careful here, you need to stay home, I was so impressed. We all stayed home and we still had rehearsals. And what that meant was that the students had to be incredibly patient with us as we figured out how to do all of this. We at Symphonette did a lot of really fun things. We were able to have trivia moments which focused on music history. So we took a look at the pieces that we were going to play. We were going to play William Grant Still's Mother and Child. We were going to play the entire Green Field Suite by Dr. Bishop. We were going to play all of the Columbia River Suite by Doris Gazda, and we were going to play the Overture to Handel's Fireworks Suite. Now, what we were able to do was we were able to call up Doris Gazda and Dr. Bishop, and we were able to have Skype sessions, well, not Skype sessions, Zoom sessions with them, and the kids were able to ask directly to the composer the questions about the music that they were going to play. So we had a lot of fun with that, and we got some really, really interesting answers. I particularly appreciated Dr. Bishop's perspective on publishing, and he seemed to think it was quite a racket, or racketeering racket. So what we were able to do also was talk a little bit about what we were feeling and what all of this meant to our students. So what we did was we put together a sort of time capsule. And I thought maybe the time capsule could focus on what music was like pre-COVID, what music was like during, and maybe what you hope music would be like when we come back. So we have a few students that have graciously volunteered to give their perspectives, and I'd like to introduce Henry O'Boyle, who has been our concertmaster in Symphonette this year. And Henry, if you would unmute yourself, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what you look forward to in Symphonette before we all had to stay at home.
So one of the things that I most look forward to before COVID was rehearsing with new music. In my experience at Symphonette, rehearsals with new music were always the most chaotic and the most fun, and they were great to look back on when you're ready to perform.
I always love teaching new music and bringing new music to the kids. It is a little bit chaotic as we all sort of figure out what the music is supposed to sound like and who plays what. But it's fun to watch as it comes together, and then absolutely in that moment where we're all sitting on the Carnegie Hall, I still have to get used to that, Carnegie Hall stage, which is behind me. It's fun to be able to see the arc of that content. So to answer the question of what your experience has been like with Symphonette and music during COVID, I wanted to introduce Vanessa Gonzalez-Reichener. Vanessa, would you unmute yourself?
Okay, so this isn't exactly TRYPO related, but a few weeks ago, my neighborhood had a quarantine art walk where I played my cello in my front yard for people walking by. And at one point, my second grader neighbor and his family came over to listen. After I was done playing, he said something like this: If you were playing every day from 12 a.m. to 12 p.m., I would come the whole time. And if this was recorded, I would use this as my background music when I was playing with my iPad.
That's awesome, Vanessa. Is there something else that you wanted to tell us about?
Oh yeah. And then this isn't really brilliant, but even though it's a bummer that we couldn't do our concerts, I don't know about everyone else, but I think I've improved a lot because I've had fewer activities and more time to practice.
I love that. I love that you have more time to practice and hone your cello playing skills. I wanted to tap Grady. Hi, Brady. It's nice to see you. I'll see you in your lesson next week. Grady Papa, to tell us what one of his favorite parts about Virtual Symphonette was.
So at the beginning of every Zoom call, Mr. Wicksberg would do a joke segment. And although some of the jokes were very corny, most of them were very funny.
I apologize for the corny ones, but I have always thought that there's this wonderful wealth of terrible music jokes out there that you have to be introduced to at some point. And I thought now would be an appropriate time to do some of those jokes. And I have held off on doing this for the entire time. But I thought today I would bring to you some of the best of viola jokes. And I can do this because I'm a viola player, and I apologize profusely to all of the viola players out there. So here we go. What is the difference between a viola and an onion? No one cries when you chop up a viola. This is one of my favorites. What's another name for viola auditions? Scratch lottery. Why did the violist marry the accordion player? Upward mobility. What's the difference between a viola and a lawnmower? You can tune up the lawnmower. Finally, how can you tell if a violist is playing out of tune? The bow is moving. I swear, I always play out of tune when my bow is moving. So we have been doing jokes like that, and I will spare you the rest of them. I can tell you that there were lots of collective groans, and I'm sure what I just heard was the collective groan of all 180 of you listening to my terrible jokes. But I wanted to hear from one more person in Symphonette. I wanted to hear from Alexandra Manzella to tell us what she felt she had learned in Symphonette over the last semesters. Alexandra, would you unmute yourself?
So every Saturday, I looked forward to making music together. Mr. Wickesberg, your funny jokes and your movements on the podium always got us to wake up in good spirits. I joined Symphonette when I was 10, and by then I had already performed with 2 orchestras, and I thought I knew everything. But for the last 3 years, I have learned so much about orchestra music. As our conductor, you've made learning easy and so much fun. Through your humor, you remind us all that. On top of everything, what brings us together is kindness and genuine human connection. I'm sure my fellow members will share with me on this. We will treasure the time we've spent together at the orchestra and the passion we share about performing arts. Please know, the efforts you've put in each of us will help us advance to our next phase. I hope we will remain connected on this musical path.
Thank you so much for that. That means more than you can know. I do hope that we will remain connected, and I guarantee we will remain connected. You will see me coming in and out of Symphonette, and I, like Jim said, I will still be around to do auditions and get things started in the fall until we can get somebody who will be, I know, even more fantastic to be the music director of Symphonette. So I wanted to introduce to you the results of our time capsule project. We had the students go into breakout rooms and talk a little bit about the three questions I asked earlier. What was music like before COVID? What was music like during? And finally, what was music like after COVID? So we created word clouds, which are just pictures with words, and the frequency of the word determines the size of the word in the word cloud. So I wanted to show you what we came up with for what was music like before COVID-19. Colorful, fun, social, community, together, happy, grand. They're wonderful, wonderful sentiments, and I love the musical note. The next one shows what music is like during COVID-19. Relaxing, escape, community, calming. I love the fact that it's a Wi-Fi symbol. So before we introduce the final word cloud, I thought what we would do was show you a performance. And this is a wonderful thing that all the students did. They submitted videos of the first movement of Doris Gazda's Columbia River Suite. And it's so difficult for students to do this, to put the metronome in one ear and to record with a click track so that everything is together. But they all did a spectacular job, and we were able to put it together so that live, well, almost live from the Carnegie Music Hall stage, here is Doris Gazda's Columbia River Suite first movement. That really, really brings a tear to my eye to see that we can still make music together, even though we're so far apart. And I wanted to, at this moment, acknowledge the coaches of Symphonette who you may have seen in the upper row. The first violin coach is Irene Cheng, second violin coach Rachel Stegman, viola coach Caitlin Pyroth, cello coach Kathy Malucci, and bass coach John Moore. I'd like to finish our segment with our final word cloud, which was the students' response to the question, what will music be like after COVID-19? And I thought this would be a fitting way to end our segment. So here it is.
Maestro Wickersberg, thank you for all your great music making. I have enjoyed every concert with you, and I'm so glad that we have a few more weeks together. Don't be a stranger. We'll look forward to having you back as a guest, and thanks so much for helping WQED with our fundraising efforts and for being part of our Pittsburgh Symphony broadcasts every Wednesday and Sunday evening at 7 o'clock. Thank you, Andrew Wickersberg. Len Lavelle is next, the director of bands at North Hills High School. Mr. Lavelle is performing each year at either the Pennsylvania Music Educators Association All-State or the National Association for Music Educators, the All-Eastern Convention. He's been doing that for a decade, 10 years. This year, they selected, as a featured band, they were selected to perform at the Music for All National Concert Band Festival, one of just 16 in the nation. He is regularly invited as a guest conductor and clinician, and this is his first year conducting the TRYPO Wind Symphony. Len Lavelle, good afternoon.
Thank you, Jim, very, very much. It's wonderful to be here and hear the performances of the percussion ensemble and the Wind Symphony. It's just like being at Duquesne on a Saturday morning and seeing the kids all together. It's been a joy to be with these students each morning at Duquesne on Saturday. And just like Mr. Wickersberg said, that continued even when we had to be in a Zoom call together. There's really nothing like this group in Pittsburgh, like our Wind Symphony. We're in the newest part of the TRYPO family. The students are really creating something unique in this group, so we're going to let them tell you about it. We have amazing students, as all of you at home know, as you drop them off to us each Saturday. It's been so neat to watch our clarinet section really grow this year and grow together. So we're going to have Leah start us off. So Leah, if you could unmute and start to share where we are as a group.
Thank you. My name is Leah Henning. I play the clarinet and I go to school at Upper St. Clair High School. This morning, we hope to share a look at our Wind Symphony journey this semester, since we cannot share through our music on stage. When we came back for second semester, the Wind Symphony had grown by about 25% from the first semester. The new members that we as students invited to audition were strong musicians and wonderful people. We started by getting to know each other a bit more through the food game, and we carried this with us throughout the semester and probably will into next year. Ben, we're still waiting for you to go all the way around the circle, and we know that the Rice Gang will only grow stronger next year. Music is the medium that brought us together, but we also have seen that the better we know each other, the better that we can communicate through music. It has been so fun getting to know the members of Wind Symphony and my clarinet section this year, even after we couldn't rehearse in person. As Mr. Lavelle says, music is so much more than just the notes on the page.
Thank you, Leah. About some of the notes, the music that brought us together, Athena is always one of the very first people in the room, and we always get to talk before rehearsals, something I've always looked forward to. So Athena, can you tell us about some of the music that we've been working on?
Sure, thank you. Hello, my name is Athena Colanderis. I play the flute, and I go to school at Penn Trafford High School. Our in-person repertoire included 4 diverse works this semester. David Maslowski's Mother Earth fanfare challenged our ears with dissonant polyrhythms and aggressive sounds. As time went on, we had very different appreciation for this type of writing. One Life Beautiful is exactly what the title says, a beautiful work that allowed us to explore lyrical playing. Carter loved this piece. and was willing to arm wrestle Chris for the first trumpet part. We think Chris let him win. We really enjoyed working on Michael Markowski's Elixir, and we were excited to welcome Mark Houghton of the Pittsburgh Symphony to join us as horn soloist on William Pitt's new work, Dynamo. All of the music was great to learn, but my favorite piece was probably Elixir because as a group, we were all really into the music and created something amazing.
Thank you so much, Athena. Ben is our piccolo player, as he will share with you, and just really helps define our group that way, kind of like our lead trumpet player in a jazz band. So Ben, can you tell us a little bit more about how our semester evolved?
Sure, Mr. Ravel. Hello, everyone. My name is Ben, and I play the piccolo in Wind Symphony. I go to school at Steel Valley High School. So when our Wind Symphony was suddenly not able to be together in rehearsal, we continued our learning together through two main focuses in addition to practicing our repertoire. Our first way was virtually studying pieces that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to study during a non-pandemic world. And secondly, we interviewed guest speakers on topics that we were interested in. So the first piece that we chose as a group was Gustav Holst's First Suite in E-flat. This is a landmark work for band that came from a time when Holst was trying to go in a different direction for his music. We looked at how he developed an entire 3-movement work from an original folk melody that he wrote and looked at in depth at the 16 variations that were present in the first movement. After studying the work, we agreed that the First Suite is a great piece of music. This led us to a conversation about what makes music of artistic merit. Is there criterion that makes music great? And is it different than music that we like? We didn't all agree on the differences between great music and music that we like, but when we broke up into groups to brainstorm objective criterion for looking at great music, we collectively hit all of the points listed in a famous doctoral dissertation on the topic, which was encouraging. Our guest speakers were based on questions that we as students had. One of our guest speakers, Kelly Zimba, a Pittsburgh native and Bethel Park graduate, shared her path to becoming the principal flute of the Toronto Symphony Orchestra at a young age. Another one of our guests, actually multiple guests, a panel that represented undergraduate, master's, and doctoral students shared their path to major in music. It was a proud moment for us as 2 of the panelists were TRYPO alums. Also, we had Dr. Sean Murphy, who heads the music business program and created his own publishing company, to share his thoughts on how our industry is changing and how we can be successful in this new post-pandemic age. All of the guests overall were very helpful in answering our questions. So thank you, Mr. Ravel.
Really well done, Ben. Thank you. And Chris is a remarkable young man. We're gonna, as we all know in the TRYPO organization, he's one of our seniors. And I was personally very, very honored when after Chris played with the Wind Symphony on our first concert, he came to me and asked, with all that he had doing with auditions and being a senior, if he could also join the Wind Symphony and that we could make that schedule work so he could play with us. And I'll always remember that conversation and his humility and willingness to be a part of the group. So, and you wouldn't be surprised when we needed a volunteer to help out with the project that we wanted to share with you today. Chris immediately volunteered. So Chris, would you tell us a little bit more about this project?
Sure. Hello, my name is Chris Cox. I play the trumpet and I go to school at Greater Latrobe. And next year I will be studying trumpet performance at Duquesne University. The next piece that we decided to study virtually was Percy Granger's Irish Tune from County Derry. Just as with Holst, we spent time learning about Granger as a person, as well as how and why he wrote. He had much in common with Holst, and although from Australia, he lived in England at the same time as Holst. They both championed the English folk song as a form of nationalism, and they were both leaders in establishing the band as a serious medium of its own through their compositions. His Irish Tune is an incredibly beautiful piece, and despite being on the shorter side, like most of Granger's works, it scores very high on the study of great music that we talked about earlier. What we decided to share with you was part of our virtual performance of Granger's Irish Tune from County Derry. We never played this piece together in person, but we wanted to learn it through this unique opportunity that we were given. Each of us recorded our individual parts to a click track and sent them to Mr. Lavelle. He layered the parts as I worked on the video, displaying the Irish countryside to give a visual aspect as we contemplated the elements in this music. We hope you enjoy this beautiful piece.
Thanks again, Chris, for putting together the video for us. It fit perfectly. It was wonderful just to layer all those parts in for our students. As we took each one of those parts, I could see that each student's faces as we put them in. And it was, for me, though very time consuming, it was a very, very meaningful thing to do, to feel connected to the kids' music. Music's such a personal expression for each one of us. I don't want to forget to recognize our soloists. The solo flute at the beginning there was Lauren Hornsby, did a phenomenal job, Lauren. And then our solo horn player was Becca Tupper, absolutely phenomenal playing from both of those. The students and I would like to thank all of you, everyone that's here, especially our staff and Anna for being amazing to us, and Lindsay and Brian for their leadership, and especially our students and parents. As I've shared a couple times with all of you, I came as a guest to see what it was like, and I've stayed because of the people in TRYPO, all of you. There's lots of ways that we can all spend our time, more now than ever. But life is better with TRYPO, and I think the group, all of you, has really shown that over the last 2 months. It's not necessarily easier being a music maker and being a doer that you've chosen to create. Means rides from your parents and practicing and scheduling your chamber groups, but life is better with TRYPO. And this is a totally unique environment, community, or family, and you'll never regret being a music maker. To our Wind Symphony, we were performing already, and you know that, in March than we did at our December concert, and that's an amazing thing. And how's that possible? It's when you invested in that vision, we started to see that exponential growth. When you started to invest in each other, just like Leah talked about at the beginning, as the year went on, the growth became exponential, not linear, and that was a really fabulous thing to be a part of. I think we could all hear that. I'm glad that we chose to end with Irish tune, not something faster or louder. It kind of just happened organically to us as we were talking about the different pieces that we could look at. And I think there's amazing healing in music like that. So if that's what's ringing in my ears over the summer until we can come back together in September, that's okay with me. As I learned once I worked with the group, the majority of the players that in that group are 9th and 10th graders, which is a really phenomenal thing. We have less than a handful of seniors. And so when I think about what a group like this can be like when we have the chance to rehearse again, it's really inspiring. So thank you, TRYPO, and thank you, Wind Symphony, for letting me join your band and letting us share here today. So back to you, Jim. Thank you.
I know how much work you do, and you are beloved by your students. Thank you for being with us today. Emma Chitani is next, the Young People's Orchestra principal cello and the senior at the high school, Mount Lebanon High School. Emma, welcome.
Hi. Like you said, my name's Emma, and I go to Mount Lebanon High School, and I've been a member of TRYPO for 5 years. And I just wanted to introduce the senior project for a bit. So I think it's fair to say that the senior class across the board has been through a lot this year. We lost our last 3 months of school, our last 3 months of TRYPO rehearsals. The Carnegie Hall trip was canceled. And also a bunch of other senior trips that I know a lot of us were looking forward to. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have our final in-person concert, but I don't want to leave this on a sad, depressing note. So I know the last few months we've been talking about silver linings in our music and silver linings in our world. And I think there's so many things that we have been able to do that we wouldn't have been able to if the pandemic hadn't happened, like more time to practice. Our theme is the elements this year, so our earth is healing throughout this pandemic, which is another positive thing to look forward to. So yeah, I'm gonna introduce Gracie, who's gonna introduce the senior project a little bit more. But the seniors at TRYPO just wanted to thank everyone at TRYPO throughout all of our years for everything they've done for us. And yeah, we put together this video.
Hello, my name is Gracie Zielinski, and I'm a senior at Kiscaria High School this year. I'm closing out my 3rd year with TRYPO, and it's been a blast. And we are, as seniors, we're really sad that it had to close out this way, but we created this project to give us some sort of closure and hope going into the next chapter of our lives and after the pandemic. So we wanted to do something that connected us as seniors, but also represented our history with TRYPO. So the project we created is kind of a compilation video of our playing and our memories over TRYPO. We decided as a group that the Jupiter theme from the planets would be what we would play because it's the most significant to us as a group of our time with TRYPO. So the history we have with this piece is we started learning this in the fall of 2018 during our first season with Maestro Warsdale. And we were learning it, and during this time, the Tree of Life attack happened on October 27th of 2018. And this piece has such a special meaning to us ever since then. The rehearsal that day that we had, we just played Jupiter and we talked, and it's now cemented in all of us as a symbol of hope after that. So this gave us like a full circle view of our time with TRYPO, of hope for the future, of hope through these types of times. And we're really hoping that this video will inspire you as it did us to make it.
Hello, TRYPO.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you, TRYPO.
Thank you.
Thanks, TRYPO.
For all the memories.
For all the memories.
For all the memories.
For all the memories.
The memories.
Memories.
Gustav Holst and played so beautifully by our seniors there. Congratulations to all the seniors. Bravo. You hear Jupiter from the Planets on Classical QED in the morning often. Be sure to be there Monday morning, bright and early. I'm counting on you. We have a special guest now. It is the music director of the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. Manfred Honeck is with us live from Austria. Grüß Gott. Delighted to be with you, Maestro Honeck.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Where are you exactly? You are in Western Austria, in Vorarlberg. Yes, you're at home.
Yes, I'm at home, and I enjoy it very much to be with my family and up in the mountains. We have good weather now, which is wonderful also. But of course, I miss the orchestra. I miss Pittsburgh enormously. So it's would like to be with my other family as well.
Well, we'll look forward to having you back in town soon. Who all is with you? How large is your family at home?
Well, it changes all the time from 50 to 100. Oh, no, sorry, it's not that really true. It's just only, it's only 12 people at the moment. You know, so
12 people.
Yes, we have a big family, and but it changes all the time.
Tell me about your early music making. We are with young musicians today. When did it start for you? When was your first lesson? And I know you played in a youth orchestra, the Gustav Mahler Youth Orchestra, very early, but when did music begin for you? You came from a musical family.
Well, I really don't remember that so clearly, but you know, my father asked all the children, we were 9 children, to play an instrument. So he put the violin in my hand and say, so play the instrument. So that was my first would say contact with an instrument. But with orchestra, I played in the Austrian youth orchestra, and that was so fun. And by the way, I got to know my wife Christiane in the Austrian youth orchestra, and that was for me something very special. And to meet her, I was playing second violin. I was the leader of the second violin at that time, and she was also in the same group. Yeah, so I was at that time, of course, was 17 years old, 18 years old. But my first orchestral experience was actually when I was 15.
Well, I know that you enjoy working with young people still. What advice do you have for our young musicians today? What would you like them to know? What suggestion would you like to make?
Suggestions?
Suggestion.
Well, I mean, of course, people always say practice, but I think it's too simple, you know. Practice is anyway, and you have to practice everything what you do, and whatever you want to do. If you want to be a lawyer, you have to study. If you want to do sport, you have to study. You have to be hard. If you want to be in front, you have to practice a lot, of course. But the one thing is extremely important: that you have patience and love. Both are extremely important, I think. Patience and love. Otherwise, you know, it can be, if you don't love the instrument, it's not the best, you know. You have to love something, you know. It's like a marriage somehow, you know. You have to love your wife, and then, because, you know, you will might be a whole life with the woman you love, you know. If you don't love it, you will have a whole life with a woman you don't love. That's actually impossible. So love and patience, practice, these are other things.
Well, we will get back to that topic a little bit later if we have time, but we're receiving some questions from our musicians, and they want to know, what is the favorite piece that you have performed with the Pittsburgh Symphony? And along with that, do you ever enjoy new music from composers like the Minimalists, Steve Reich? Terry Riley wrote one of the early pieces called In C, Philip Glass. Do you enjoy the contemporary music being written by the minimalist composers?
Of course, I mean it's a very interesting period when this composer played and composed the music. It's very interesting to listen. But you can understand that coming from Austria, where especially in Vienna, where we have so many wonderful composers of the Romantic period and Classic period. I was grown up with them, so that is a little bit more familiar with to me, I must say. But I would say, and Jim Nova probably will agree with me, Bruckner 9 was one of my great experience I had. And I love to do Bruckner, but what's wrong with Mahler 5, which he did in Lincoln Center? What's wrong with even Dvorak 8, Tchaikovsky 5, 6? Oh wow, this is, and then you know, and I must tell you one thing. Please don't tell anybody, but I have already got the first edit of Beethoven 9, and I'm just in the middle of working through that. And I tell you, it will be a fantastic recording. I really can't wait to bring this out. It's not yet there. We have to do some details still to work together of all 4 concerts, but I can already say I'm and I say that not always, you know, because I'm always very, very careful because other people should actually watch and then hear this before I say something. But I think this will be wonderful.
Well, your Tchaikovsky 4th Symphony was just out a few days ago, and the result there was fantastic. I can't wait to hear the Beethoven 9. You were going to record Bruckner's 7th Symphony. Will you reschedule that recording?
I have to. As a Bruckner fan, I need. Of course, I will do that, and I need to do, because I think the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra is playing this symphony and all this repertoire so fantastic. So that I don't want to make to lose time. I want to have this piece recorded. It's one of my favorite pieces anyway.
What's going on with the pandemic? This is such a worrisome time for musicians. Singers are afraid they're not going to be able to sing for another year. Musicians don't know when people will be comfortable getting together again at an audience. I understand the Musikverein, the home of the Vienna Philharmonic, is open for concerts with 100 people only, and that Daniel Barenboim will participate in a concert in June. It's a very confusing and crazy time. What do you think of what's going on in our world?
Well, facts are facts, but you know, and when it was interesting that I was conducting Fidelio, it's a new production in Theater an der Wien in Vienna, exactly in March. That was the theater where Beethoven has world premiered, the Fidelio. So the last week of rehearsals, we got the message we probably will not be able to perform in front of the public. So the last 2 rehearsals we used for recording for TV production. And so we spent 2 months on rehearsal with the singers, with the orchestra, and with the stage director, Christoph Waltz, and no performance. Fortunately, we had this the possibility to hear this in the TV production, which was great. But it was such a disappointment, you know, enormously, and we could not believe that I get then the messages one by one, you know. So and it said till September, all my concerts were cancelled. So this is an enormous disappointment, because we musicians, we want to be on the stage. We want to play, and it showed for me also that it is enormous important how close we are with the audience, with the people. We don't play for ourselves, we play for people in the hall, and so it's the soul of music making. But you know, there are also other sides, and I had a lot of time with my family, which never happens. I had normally 3 weeks time for vacation, which I always do every year. But that I have now 4 or 5 months free and play with and don't conduct anything. This is very never happened in my life. But there are some hopes, and there's some good developments in our country. We are allowed to take down the mask middle of June. I'm also part in the Musikverein. We'll conduct, they asked me to conduct Tchaikovsky 5. Also I do a TV production in the middle of June now in Theater in der Wien with for Lehar, because he is celebrating his 150th birth year, and he's a little bit in the shadow of Beethoven now, you know. So there's something going on, and you know, Honeck was asking whether I could replace one of the concerts. So it comes, and they got some calls, which is wonderful. So it opens again, and I think this is a wonderful sign also, and I'm sure that in Pittsburgh it will come back as soon as possible.
You mentioned that you have been able to spend a little bit more time with your family during this time at home. Have you been able to take up a new hobby during this time? Have you learned a new hobby, Maestro?
No, I stick with my old hobby. I eat and eat. So, and this is a good, I put the computer a little bit up so that you cannot see my belly there. So this is quite good.
One of our musicians, Gracie Zielinski, says that the Pittsburgh Symphony is a great orchestra, a world-class orchestra. But what is it specifically that makes it great?
Well, Gracie, thank you for these questions. I'm very happy to, because this is a question which many journalists ask me also abroad, and always when I have an interview somewhere. Actually, the musicians are outstanding. They are fantastic. They are so great. Without the standard of the musicians, the orchestra would not be that. But other orchestras have also great musicians. But what it makes it very special is the energy of this orchestra. They go for everything. When I ask, and you can imagine how wonderful it is for a conductor, when you ask, please play this pianissimo, I immediately get this pianissimo. If you play, please, very bright and brilliant, you get the most brilliant result you ever had. So I would say the character of this orchestra is amazing. It's very seldom. And I tell you, I'm going to conduct a lot of orchestras in the world. A little bit dangerous it always that the sounds of orchestras all over the world get a little bit too similar. I say sometimes it's a globalization, but not with Pittsburgh. But because Pittsburgh has its own character and own style, this is the thing. And you see the reviews of Bruckner 9 or Tchaikovsky 6 or whatever, they say always the same. What a marvelous sound this orchestra has. What kind of great music making it is with this orchestra. And that's the joy. I mean, Pittsburgh can be really proud. Was it a good answer, Gracie, or are you tired? It's fine.
Thank you very much.
It was a great answer, no question about it. Maestro, what are some of your favorite places in Pittsburgh when you're not at Heinz Hall, your favorite place? Where do you like to go?
Well, beside Ruth Chris, there is, of course, a lot of other places. When I go to the Carnegie Mellon Museum, for example, you know, and go to the parks, I enjoyed very much. Or sometimes to go to St. Vincent also, to go a little bit out of Pittsburgh is also beautiful. But I must tell you, when I'm in Pittsburgh, I always work from morning to the night. So these moments where I can really be for me alone somewhere, it's actually very seldom.
We may have other questions from the musicians. We're going to hear City Trees in just a moment. And Maestro, I hope you can stick around to hear it. You mentioned your interest in new music. I have to ask you, with Zoom, we see into each other's homes. On my camera, you see the corner of my living room, my bookcase, and you're
Yes.
seeing, strangely enough, the studio where I am broadcasting in the morning. We are broadcasting from home.
Oh.
And it's very strange. Now, I see over your shoulder a painting. What is the significance of a painting in your room there?
Okay, oh yes, you see, this is actually a Christmas present from my daughter Anna Maria. She is also a painter, and I moved me a little bit behind way. This is has a certain meaning. You see a little bit kind of a circle, a bright circle, isn't it?
Yes.
And but on the other side there is darkness. So it is from darkness to light. What she means, from suffering to hope and to peace. This is very. She made a painting, so a little bit kind of a story about that, you know. So that's the meaning of this painting, and I loved it so much that I thought I'd give it into my living room. I did not know that you can see that so good. So
it's great.
I enjoyed.
Now, Paxton Kendall, one of our musicians, wants to know what it looks like in Austria where you live. What do you see when you walk out your front door? What does this part of the country look like?
Oh, it's very green. You know, it's a lot of trees and a lot of wonderful flowers, and it's very peaceful here. And it's very close to the mountains. In 15 minutes, I'm also already in the mountains. So it's quite a what to say, a countryside area.
If there are any more questions, we only have a couple of minutes left with Maestro Manfred Honeck. Or very
By
much.
the way, I must say that these videos, what you do, and Lindsay has sent me some videos of what you do. It is fantastic. I really love this. What you did from the playing and also with the trees, showing the trees from Pittsburgh. It's fantastic. I was very impressed by that. So congratulations to all of you who took part and who made this possible. It was absolutely wonderful.
Well, we'll be looking forward to seeing you back at a rehearsal of the Three Rivers Young People's Orchestra in the very near future. Now, you mentioned a few minutes ago that your experience with the youth orchestra was life-changing because you met Christiana, your wife, and you began to think very seriously about pursuing your career as a conductor and as a musician. Is there one specific memory that you would share of your time both conducting the youth orchestra and playing in the youth orchestra? Is there one special thing you'd like to share?
No, yeah, it is. I think one of these moments when I played Bruckner 4th Symphony, you know, that was the first time when I really got so touched. You know, that was for me probably the time when I thought I really want to be a musician. I was so touched by this deepness and honestly, and this deep music making, even if I struggled a little bit technically still there, but it touched me so much. The other place when I heard the Mahler 1st Symphony, not with my orchestra, but with a German youth orchestra. It was a current competition in Berlin. I could not believe what kind of impact this great music had on my soul. In the end, it happens always. You know, when you hear a music, you get touched so much, but you carry this on for the next month, for the next year, and then you make a decision. And this decision was for me so important. Without that experience in the youth orchestra, I think I would not have probably be able to make this decision so clearly.
Maestro, I wanted to ask you about your generosity with doing interviews like this one. You have been so kind to come in and speak on the radio very early in the morning. Sometimes you arrive right after a long flight and haven't had a lot of sleep, but you get up early and come in to speak. Our musicians must develop the skill of explaining what they're doing and sharing their passion. Why do you do the interviews that you do? There are a few conductors who never give interviews, but thank you for sharing your thoughts. Why is it important to do that?
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, it is enormous important that we cultivate also the relationship to people, that they understand why should they come to concerts, why should they listen to the orchestra. And I think the people are so much interested in hearing from artists, whether it's conductor or musicians, about music making. What is about our life? What is about our personal life? Or what do you think about music? And all these kind of wonderful questions, Jim, what you always ask me, it is so interesting because I can share it with so many people. My view or my opinion might be about some things, what happens in the world, or what happens in my personal life, or what happens in the music. And it's always a chance also to wake up the people, and also a chance to get them involved in the symphony, which is so great. And you know, one of the things in I'm not sure whether if you guys who listen now have the same experience. I put some CDs in my recorder, you know, so I do some listen to other things, and it is beautiful. I really love that. But at some point I come to my mind, well, to be in the hall and to hear an orchestra performing live, there is nothing comparable to that. And in this crisis, it came more to my mind. To do a live, to experience a live concert is just sensational.
I have one last question from our conductor, Brian Warsdale, and one last question from one of our musicians. May Hummus wants to know, what is your favorite thing about being a conductor?
I don't know. My favorite thing to be a conductor, well, I mean, it is for me the most important. That's the only reason to be a conductor, to express the music like I feel it. And this is the greatest joy what you can have. You know, as a musician, and I know that every musician thinks the same. To play somewhere solo or ensemble or chamber music or orchestra, to express yourself and play this music like you feel it inside in your soul. That's the best what I can do. And this is the greatest joy when I have conduct. I'm not interested in going out and take the bow and applause, and this is all good. Why not? It's fantastic. But the really thing is to make the music in the moment when you perform.
Maestro, thank you so much for spending this time with us. One last question from our music director, our conductor, Brian Warsdale.
Oh, hello, Maestro. Thank you so much for being here with our kids. It's so wonderful to have you share all of your memories and your thoughts with them. And we've spent the last 10 weeks, you know, speaking to them and working with them and giving them, trying to keep the spark of music alive in them. And this is our last day, and they're going to go off, and some of them will be involved in our summer camp. Some will they'll find their own ways to practice. Do you have any advice for these wonderful young people who, you know, at the end of our journey today, that you would give them as they get through the summer? Because, you know, we all hope that by the fall we'll be able to do something together, but for now we're looking at our summer months. Do you have any advice, any words you'd like to give them before we move to the end of our afternoon with them?
Well, dear musicians, I must say it is something special that I can talk now far away from your country. I must say that so many times I think of you, and many times I think of the orchestra, and many times I have a feeling I want to be with you. And I shared a lot of beautiful music making, of course, with the symphony, and in the rehearsals which I did with you. I must say, for me, it's unforgettable. And this word unforgettable is very important. Don't forget anything what you have experienced and what you did. with in the last years, that you carry on this every day, that you have the possibility every day to think about what kind of power music has to you, for you, and how can music influence you. And you will find also moments, I'm sure, because I had the same experience in my life, where you think about what can I do now? You know, I cannot do anything, so I do sport, of course. I love this, and then soccer, and then this all the football, and then so fine. But what enriches my life really, and it's actually, in my opinion, for me personally, music. Every day to listen to music, to different kind of music, it helped for me not to forget what I experienced. You carry this wonderful music in your soul through a whole summer, through the whole life, and you will never forget. Actually, you will never lose this kind of connection with this great music, and it helps you in all situations. Sometimes you might be extremely happy. Sometimes you might be a little bit sad. You cannot hear, you cannot meet. You might be you have lost somebody in your family, or you know, there's some, you cannot meet your grandmother who's much older, and all these things which we experience actually. But through music, it helps a lot to connect to each other. And keep these emotions, keep this all the time. Think about that, what it means for you. That's one of the things which I'm sure it's so wonderful. It's so enjoyable when you go through the summer. Keep healthy.
Thank you very much for that. We can't wait till we're all together again, and we hope we can get you in to spend time with our kids when that time does come, because it is really special when they get to work with people like yourself. So, Jim?
Maestro Manfred Honeck, thank you so much. Lindsay Nova, everyone with the Three Rivers Young People's Orchestra with us today wants to say thank you to you and Auf Wiedersehen. And I hope you'll be able to stick around for City Trees, which Maestro Warsdale is going to introduce now.
Absolutely. All the best, Lindsay. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was absolutely great.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Hello, everybody. Thank you again. We're at the end of our session today. We're going to finish it out with our performance. I have to say this again because we've had such a wonderful afternoon together, and I'm doing my best to try to hold it together when I say this to you all, because you are all so special. Every single one of you. Anybody who decides to pick up an instrument to express themselves, you are truly special. You are part of an ancient tradition that continues even in the age of technology. And because of the age of technology, we're able to keep that ancient tradition alive. We don't want to be doing it this way all the time, but boy, am I so happy that we were able to stay connected for the last 10 weeks because of technology. We were able to take these beautiful instruments and make beautiful things out of them. And to our staff and to all of our students, you are why I teach. You are why I conduct. I can't imagine doing anything else in the world. I wake up in the morning and this is what I want to do. And it just makes me very happy. On top of that, I also want to point out that our parents and grandparents who are watching, and sibling aunts and uncles, but our parents, we are temporary stewards of these people, and you put your trust in us to take care of these kids. And that's a huge, huge covenant and contract that you make with us, that we take care of your kids on Saturdays. And now we've done so much more than that. We've had events during the week. We've done everything we can to really take care of our charge to bring music to their lives. And we really appreciate the trust you had to do that. All of you have been so wonderful, from when we had to make well, not us making the decision, but when we missed out on our Carnegie Hall appearance in New York City, all the way up until this point, we have made sure that we have stayed active with you. And it's because of those parents, it's because of these kids, it's because of the staff, it's because of the amazing executive director that we have in Lindsay Nova, who believes in young people so much that and it's hard. You know what? It's so hard to sit behind that desk. I understand it. And yet she does so every week, every year. with such enthusiasm for young people. So I think before we do anything else, we should all be raising our hands to Lindsay Nova for keeping this magic alive. So thank you, Lindsay. With that, I just want to, and Maestro Honeck, you can hear a little background about why we picked this piece. City Trees was composed by my friend Michael Markowski. He wrote the band version in 2011, 2012. And then Verena Mosenbichler, a native fellow countryman of yours, she teaches at Duke University, commissioned the orchestra version of this. And we were going to play this at Carnegie Hall. And Michael volunteered his time. He did 50 hours of editing, video, and sound to put together this awesome recording. And we're just very proud of that work. And we wanted to make sure that we had another chance to see it all together. And so I thank you, Maestro. I thank everybody here. And I would like to present YPO and City Trees. You know, I have to tell you, Jim, I still cry every time I watch the thing.
It's absolutely wonderful.
I still cry every time I watch the thing.
Congratulations.
Mahilan just noticed that I played trombone on the video, apparently. She messaged me, so I was like, okay, yeah. I wanted to say one more thing about, I didn't get to do this in the beginning, the seniors. I forgot to say something about my seniors. I'm so happy and so proud of them for the video they put together, and they've been so fantastic. And I just wanted to point that out. And I'm gonna miss you guys. And you're all sending me private messages, and I just wanted to give you guys a shout out. You've made me feel at home here. Thank you. And Jim, back to you.
I just want to say thank you again, and what an honor it's been. Please listen to the radio bright and early on Monday morning. I'll be talking about you. Look forward to hearing the concert on Friday night, coming soon in just a few weeks, with the Three Rivers Young People's Orchestra on the Performance in Pittsburgh program. I wish I could thank everyone by name, but I cannot. Too many contributed too much. It was just so great to have you all with us today. Bravo to you, Maestro Warsdale, and Manfred Honeck. Thank you so much for joining us live from Austria today. Our last word will come from our executive director, Lindsay Nova.
I'm pretty moved to tears. I just want you all to know how much I care about all of you, and I will miss every single one of you over the summer. It's been an unusual and lovely year in many unexpected ways, and that's because of each and every one of you. So from the Nova household, from our brass coach and our wandering Zoom members, I just wanted to wish you a wonderful summer. And I hope that we'll see some of you in our virtual summer program. And I hope we'll see many more of you in the fall. And we definitely will be seeing all of our seniors no matter what, because they will be coming back for some event next year. And I'm very excited about that. So please join with me in staying focused on our silver linings and staying focused on whatever good feelings you had today, because that is the reason, and that is the beauty of music, and that is the beauty of us being together. And I actually would like to close out this session by returning to our Symphonette word cloud on what will music be like when we are together again. I love you all, and have a wonderful summer. Stay in touch.